prayer.
Stop, Lord. Dear gracious Heavenly Father, we just want to start this meeting where it needs to always be with you. Lord, we ask your forgiveness of our sins. Lord, help this meeting to be a peaceful, profitable meeting for everyone involved. Lord, as commissioners, we want to serve the people, but serve you most of all. And help us to give us the wisdom, give us the right attitude, Lord, that we may be the people you want us to be. Thank you for your blessings, Lord. Thank you for the rain. And Lord, we just ask again you be with us tonight. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Mr. Cersei, you lead us in pledge?
Yes, sir. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, I want to thank everybody for coming out this evening to give us an opportunity to hear your thoughts on the White Path building. What we kind of branded it as the White Path building now, so we'll just stick with that if that's all right. What our intention to do tonight, just to be honest with you, is to listen. That is something that we this Board of Commissioners hasn't had an opportunity to do, is to listen to your thoughts and concerns, if any. And that way it might help us as we move forward, whichever direction it may be. So once again, I thank everybody for coming out. We will try to interact as much as we can, but we will, at the end of this, we will try our best to have some closing statements from the commissioners, if that's okay. And there is a good crowd tonight, so we would try to give everybody an opportunity to speak, but maybe 10-15 minutes. If you feel like you need longer, just let me know. We'll go from there, and we'll see what happens. So this young lady right here, and if you would, when you come to the mic, if you don't care, tell us your name.
Okay, do you mind if I take my mask?
Sure.
Don't care a bit. And also, if you would, please speak into that microphone.
Okay.
You have to get it, oh, there it is, right there, just the perfect spot. Okay, my name is Kathy Thompson, and 49 years ago, hard to believe, but 49 years ago this August, I came from Atlanta, and before that, up north. Hi, Johnny, your Yankee friend. Anyhow, to teach the children here, the young people here. Went to West Fannin High School. Everything is so much better now. In some ways, we're the envy of the rest of the state. For example, our schools have a performing arts center that whoever thought we'd have that. A beautiful gym. The football field looks the best it's ever looked. There's a wonderful new ag facility, a stupendous recreation center, and now we're talking about an aquatic center. But our library is still too small, 49 years later, and still underfunded. When the standalone library in 2001 was torn down 20 years ago, there was a promise made that there would be a standalone library. It's 20 years later. We have failed our children. When you go to the librarians do these wonderful programs for children. They do summer programming, but it's totally limited by the fact that, kids only have a little section and they make noise. And the rest of the people in the library can't hardly use the library because the kids are having a good time. In a standalone library of the size that we're looking at for White Path, there would be a glassed-in or a separate area where the kids could do tactile stuff, even when there isn't group activities. So much could be offered. A modern library is a lot more than books. We've not only failed the children, but we failed the adults. I do, as you know, a lot of history, and we have a genealogy room. And I have to be honest, every time I have to go to the library down in Gilmer County, it just makes me sick. because that's what we've always wanted. And during COVID, what happened was they had to close the genealogy room at our library, our Fannin library. And the reason is because every third chair had to be put up. Other things had to be put up. And the genealogy room has not been available since the beginning of COVID. Now, I was doing some research on Fannin County and needed to go through old newspapers. Fortunately, I could go through them, it did say the floor below. But we wanted to also check and see if maybe it was reported in the Gilmer County papers. So I go to the genealogy room in Gilmer County, which I don't think I've ever been in before. Beautiful room, large, lots of facilities, all the machines to crank microfilm with. And ours is sat closed because of space limitations. Unless you're a genealogy person, you wouldn't know that. We have a chance. We have a chance this time to finally get this right. No, we're not going to have a big standalone impressive library. We just need more space. We need facilities. And the problem is, if we don't find a way to take this opportunity, we won't get another one for 20 years, maybe at least 10. The thing is, this is the second time that this county has been offered money for a standalone library. This is not the first time. I don't know the date, John, but it was previously. Okay, so let's say that we say, well, this is just not a good time, bad building, blah, blah, and we go down the list. It takes you about 10 years to go from the bottom of the list to the top of the list. Then you get back up to the top of the list, and you have a track record. And your track record is twice. You talked about it, and you talked about it, and you looked at it. You didn't do anything. So there's no assurance that in 10 years anybody would trust us, given that if we don't this time, this would be the second time that we held on to their money or their offer for quite a while, and then, and we couldn't do it. I don't know. The building itself, I understand, and other people will address that, has been inspected by the state level library architect. And basically what they do is they take the roof off during that time, they clean everything out. If there's any asbestos, it goes. If there's any, that was what I was told. I'm not an expert on what's wrong with the library. I use a lot, but not on the architecture. But assuming that all of that can be managed, it's a great location. The kids could walk down from the high school. It is surprising how many kids end up after school, doing their work in the library. The library in, I think, Blairsville actually has a room in which the kids can do their homework and not disturb anybody. There are computers in there. It's a good location. This is, in some ways, potentially our last chance. But please don't blow it. And I'm not meaning to be rude, but just please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Move this. How about that?
You're fine.
Is that better?
Good.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Patterson, Commissioner Searcy, thank you so much for this opportunity. My name is John Turner. I am a resident of Fannin County, have been since 1980. My wife is a native of Fannin County, so I'm kind of halfway accepted here. Maybe I'm okay. I am chairman of the Fannin County Library Board of Trustees,
There you go.
and I'm also on the Mountain Regional Library System board. Before I get into my remarks, I want to make 2 points that I think are very important. The first is that our Fannin County Library Board of Trustees has not taken a position for or against any location for a new library. And I want to explain why. Even though we've had lengthy discussions about the possibilities of various locations and so forth, going back long before White Path was ever identified. Nothing has really been presented to us, so we've had nothing to vote on during this time. And that's why we have not taken a position for or against any specific location. However, I can say to you with great confidence that our board, and the consensus of our board, is that A, we need a new library, it's time. B, it needs to be in a location that is accessible to our people here in Fannin County. It needs to be an appropriate size. And we just prefer strongly a standalone library that would be scaled to the what the state standards are. So that's the first point I'd like to make. The second point is that since our board has not taken a position, has not voted on anything regarding this, that I'm speaking to you today just as a citizen, not as the chairman of our board. We have other board members here today. I think they're going to speak to you too. The same will apply to them. I prepared a report so that I won't have to talk for 15 minutes. And I've provided that to you, and I've provided it to our local news media. I've distributed it to folks in the room. Hopefully there's enough of them. They were in the back. If there were not, and someone wants a copy of this, where would you go find it? The library. We have copies down there available. In this document that I've produced for you, I've tried to lay out both the problem we face with having such limited space that Kathy talked about so eloquently. I've tried to lay out some of the options, some of the things that other counties have in their public libraries that we should have and should have had for a long time. And then the grant, which I want to talk about a little bit. So let me back up and admit that I'm not speaking to you today about the building over there that we call the White Path building. I'm speaking to you about our need for a library. And I understand that this is an issue that you've inherited as a board. That's not easy. It's not easy for us as a board either, because we've inherited it somewhat the same way that you have. But I want to stress a couple of points. As Kathy said, we've got a generation without a real modern public library space that can accommodate the kinds of things that a modern library does. So some of our citizens here in Fannin County may not really understand what a modern library is. They've not seen one. It would be sort of like them saying, well, why do we need one? Well, it'd be like, you haven't had a chance to taste my wife's key lime pie, so you don't know what it tastes like. And I can't really tell you without inviting you over to have it. Okay? We don't know what we're missing. But all you have to do to understand what we're missing is go visit our neighbors. Go up to Union County, to Blairsville. Take a look at their library, and I provided for you some pictures to show you what they have in their space, which is not huge, by the way, that we don't have. It's beautiful. And believe me, the people of Union County are proud of it, and they should be. Go to Gilbert County, and you will see a tremendous library with many of the same amenities. Go to Hiwassee. You'll see a small library, but one that is really well appointed, laid out, and has all the modern features that we're talking about. Compare that with what we have now, which, by the way, and this is very ironic, the library that we used to have that was torn down was situated right about where we are right now. That building was torn down to make space for this building right about where we're standing.
John, how many square feet was that?
I don't know,
It was
Commissioner.
more
I
it was more than
tried
we
to-
have now, right?
I tried to find out the dimensions of the building. I didn't find that. I did find an article that was published in July of 1973, where our librarian at the time, Miss Bonnie Green, and I don't know if any of you remember Bonnie Green, but she was a treasure. She loved our library, and people loved going there. And this article talks about how proud the citizens of Fannin County were to have this new library, but it didn't mention the dimensions. Here's what it did mention: the cost, $140,000.
In 73.
1973, when that was built. Okay, prices have gone up a little bit since then, just a little. So that's the first point I wanted to make, was just that our current library, despite the efforts of a wonderful staff who are very dedicated, very knowledgeable, very willing to help people, despite their efforts, we just can't do the things we need to do in our current space, and have not been able to do that for a long time. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the grant. And that's what I want to emphasize tonight. The grant was provided to us by the Georgia General Assembly. That didn't just happen. That took effort by a lot of people working for a long time to get us to the top of the list to be funded. That grant is $1,385,000. And what I want to stress to you and to everybody else is that that is our taxpayer money. Fannin County citizens have paid for years. Fannin County citizens have paid state taxes to support libraries all across the state of Georgia. Finally, some of that money is returned to us. So I view that check for $1,385,000, which is ready to be put into the Mountain Regional Library System account. That's our money. And I want it. I want us to cash that check and do what's necessary to finally break through and create a library for Fannin County. Now the alternative, and I'm not suggesting that this is going to happen, but the alternative would be not to tear the check up. The alternative would be to endorse it to another county. So it could be, if we don't accept this grant, if we don't match it, if we don't move forward with it pretty quickly, the effect would be we're paying for someone else's library. Maybe Fulton County, maybe Cobb County, maybe Elbert County, maybe Chatham County, who knows? I don't want that. I want us to get it. So that's what I wanted to leave you with. And then finally, I'd like to quote from a statement that was released by the Georgia House of Representatives Speaker David Ralston on January 2nd, 2020. He made an announcement. He said, "Big win for our community today. I'm delighted to announce that the state of Georgia is providing $1.3 million towards a new Fannin County Public Library." And then he went on to say this: "Libraries are the lifeblood of our communities, and I know this new facility will be a tremendous asset for residents of all ages for years to come." As it's my position that we need to take this great deal that our House Speaker has worked for us, grab it, and make this thing happen. And I know it's not easy. I know there's some complications. And if you have questions of me, I'll be glad to try to field them. But that's simply what I want to leave you with. Let's take advantage of this moment, because as Kathy said, if we don't, we go to the end of the line. And I'm not even as optimistic as she is that 10 years from now, we might be in the same position. I think it could be 20 years. And I have been to the Georgia General Assembly, both as a citizen, as a state employee, and I have worked with state legislators in both respects. And I will tell you that once a county passes on state funds, they don't forget that. They will not forget that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, John.
Anyone?
Thank you, I have a 6 o'clock to say.
Gotcha.
So you're not timing me?
No.
How exciting.
You was talking.
My name's Donna Thompson, I live here in Blue Ridge. I'm gonna give you a different perspective. In November of last year, I asked the previous board for answers. The former chairman at that time challenged the huge numbers that I was citing. So I'll tell you up front that these numbers came from the SPLOST referendum, the Sutton report, and the information from the hazardous materials survey. My question to them was simple: what will the purchase of the White Path building actually cost us? We never got that answer. For those not familiar with the numbers, I'll run through you. I know we have 2 new on our commission here, so we'll take a look at them. The SPLOST was approved for $3.15 million.
Talking to the microphone, please.
Okay. The SPLOST was approved for $3.15 million. You have spent $1.3 million on the White Path building. That leaves $1.85 million in the SPLOST account. It sounds pretty good initially. Now let's look at the expenses. I'm going to bundle them together. Our estimated expenses right now are about 5.5 based on Sutton's report. For those of you who don't know Sutton, he was the architect who was hired to do the work on the project. So the 5.5 million covers Sutton's estimated cost of construction, along with architectural fees and the various reports that he was to do. Keep in mind that this is a low estimate. I'll explain why in a minute. Our expenses so far are 5.5 million. Let's stop here because I need some help. We have 5.5 million in expenses, and we only have 1.85 million remaining in the SPLOST to pay for it. Anyone see a problem here? There's not enough money in the SPLOST to cover what Sutton estimated. So why did the commission, did they not understand that at the time? Because it was in his report. That leaves a deficit or a shortfall of $3.7 million. And this again is a low estimate. So here's why I keep saying low estimate. If you read through the Sutton report, as I have, he lists a lot of unknown costs. He identifies them as consulting with a variety of engineers and environmental specialists, doing inspections on certain things like the solar panel and HVAC, remediation of any hazardous materials found. Oh, that's a sizable one. Handling any issues that might be uncovered during demolition and construction. So the question is, what's really inside those walls? Once you break into them, what are we going to find? Add to that the normal things like permits, furnishings, fixtures, and equipment. Now, based on the environmental report, we know that there is asbestos, lead-based paint, and mold were found. And when construction begins, we can assume that there might be some more found in areas that we can't see right now. These toxins require special remediation. It's an expensive process. And we don't know the price tag for those unknown expenses. But right now, we're still at a shortfall of an estimated $3.7 million. So let's finish our financials and add the library into it. I love libraries. If we include the library, which was not on the SPLOST, we have an addition of the grants, which they mentioned, and we also have the expense of the county match. So that leaves us in a deficit of $2.9 million by including the library. So on our financial summary, we're short $3.7 million if the library is not involved, and we're short $2.9 million if the library is involved. And important again now, this does not include that long list of unknown costs which continue to stack up. So here are the questions. What is the total cost of this building going to be? A building that was deemed a great investment. That's what we were told. Where are these funds gonna come from? Again, we could likely add anywhere from $3 to $6 million to this price tag. Has anyone considered that this report and the estimates that were done, this just occurred to me a couple of days ago. They were done in 2019. That means the construction costs that he estimated were done in 2019. Now, I don't know if you read on Facebook or talk to your friends in construction, but there's been a substantial increase over the past 12 months in building and construction costs, supplies and materials. So the construction estimate of $5.1 million that was done in 2019, we can only assume that that price is going to go up. So if the construction fees or the construction cost increase, so will Sutton's design fees. Because if you continue with Sutton, I'm not sure what that contract shows, all of his design fees are based on the construction cost. So when construction costs go up, his fees go up. We still have no idea for the unknown costs like remediation, which is expensive, the permitting, furnishings, fixtures, and equipment. So then let's get down to the SPLOST. What about the SPLOST? SPLOST guidelines state that you go by the language on the referendum. That did not include a library. So what the voters voted on was an admin building or parking. They did not vote on a library. The items on the referendum or what people voted for was very specific. So speaking of the library in the last consideration, if we found a location for a standalone library, like most communities have, they don't push them into the side of the building just because there's space there or whatever. Most communities have a freestanding library. I grew up with my mom taking me to the library and doing the summer reading program, where we used to, in the old days, have cards where you put your name down and you check the book and you had to turn it back in 2 weeks. I love libraries. I still go there. If we found a location for a standalone library, that would free up the space at the courthouse. And then, if you needed expansion for the administrative services, you'd have space right here and you wouldn't need a White Path building. Let's be clear. I would like to see the library move into a good space, a standalone space for them, and I believe that can be achieved. I know people in the community that would help them achieve that. The White Path building was a bad decision. There was no due diligence prior to the purchase, and now we have hazardous materials to deal with. There is not enough money. The SPLOST allocation was never enough. I simply don't understand that. But we don't even have a handle on all the expenses yet to come. Since no one has told the citizens what this building repurpose will actually cost, here goes. Based on Sutton's low estimates, it's approximately $7 million, and that does not include the unknown expenses. These figures were available when the decision was made to purchase the building. And I could still hear the former chairman saying this was a great opportunity, it was a great decision. But he also, in one of his campaign interviews, made a comment one day, and he told the person interviewing him that when he was talking about the White Path building, he said there'll be another SPLOST. And at that point, I had not run the financials. But it makes sense now why he said there'd be another SPLOST, because he knew they didn't have enough money. He had to know that by doing the numbers. This project needs to be deemed as infeasible with regard to the SPLOST and see what can be done to release the citizens of this albatross. Because everything of the cost of this, you talk about money that we've paid in, that goes into the state funds that we're getting back now, that it's our tax dollars, it is. But this is falling on the backs of the taxpayers to pay for these expenses that we had no idea about. We had no idea that this building was going to run this much. Then if the county administration needs to move, they can find a better location. And we can find a better location for the library, a standalone location, because they deserve it. Thank you very much.
Ms. Thompson, now, just a moment, retirement question.
Sure.
You want a standalone library?
I would love one.
Right, you got the numbers. How much is it gonna cost? You've been talking about numbers, how much is a standalone gonna cost?
Well, my focus has been on the library.
Give me
excuse
an
me, on the
idea,
li-
I'm sure you thought about it, because you thought about the other.
I have those numbers at home. I did not bring those with me. I didn't know I was going to be questioned on the library because I don't work.
Well, I'm not trying to put you up behind the eight ball, but I'm just curious, how much do you feel like the standalone would cost us?
I think that you could get a building built for probably between $2 and $4 million.
Okay, how many square feet are you gonna give it? That depends. The
Am
square
I being
feet?
interrogated?
No, I'm not really, I'm just, but, you know, it depends on square footage, right?
Yes, it
You
is.
want a big one, a little one?
Well, anything would probably, and I don't mean this, you know, disparagingly, but
No,
anything
no,
would
no.
be better than what they're, you know, what they have right now. So, no, I haven't thought about square foot. I know that they look at, I guess it was 12,000 square foot was what was being allocated in the White Path building, is that correct?
It was 13, I think it was the number.
13, what it was.
Okay, the last I heard was 12, that I think was written up in the paper once. I know that sometimes they look at 20. They look at 20 as a state standard. We questioned the people at the state level, and they said that it's not necessarily a standard, it's just kind of a guideline. So, you know, they're not even clear on that. I mean, I think if we got something between 12 and 15,000 square feet, probably, that would be, I think that would be a great facility.
$2 or $3 million?
I'm not quoting.
No, I'm just asking. I mean, just curious. I mean, because
She's an architect. She
I like
knows.
what you do. You're good with numbers, okay?
I tell you,
I appreciate
you
you.
give me 24
Mr.
hours,
Patterson, what
I
do
will
you
get
think
back
it'll
on
cost?
that. I know that.
You were on the board for a year with Mr. Helton, and you were involved with this. You should know that. You shouldn't be asking her.
Hang on just a minute.
I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I will be glad. Everybody want to reconvene in 24 hours, I'll bring the numbers back to you.
That's fine.
I did not bring that
That's
with
fine.
me.
I didn't mean that.
So,
Yeah,
hey,
I'm not
I think,
upset. I mean,
I think what he's asking is maybe
I-
just,
it
he's trying to
wasn't
get
a-
some information from you, I believe is
Right.
what it is.
We've actually looked
Because you are
at.
good with numbers.
Right. It
So-
wasn't a
I
bad, it
didn't
wasn't an
bring-
insulting comment. It wasn't a threatening comment.
I didn't
I
bring
just
those
wanted
with
to
me.
know, because
I
I know
can
you're
have those
getting
on your
it done.
desk in the morning, and I can have you examples of ones around the state of Georgia that would be good examples for us to follow. So, look for that in the morning. How about that? Is that okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
Ms.
you.
Thompson.
I can answer that question about how much it costs per square foot. Current new construction costs for library facilities is between $350 and $400 a square foot.
Thank you.
Okay. So now that being said, is that turnkey? Because,
That is-
and
yes.
the only reason I asked that is because I remember in December, before I actually took office, the initial cost was 175 to 200.
That is for
So it has
renovation,
doubled.
for a new
It has doubled
construction
in 4
turnkey
months.
project. It's $350 to $400.
What was that cost, Mr. Chairman?
So back in December, the estimated cost was 175 to 200 per square foot. And
Yep.
now it's 350 to 400.
That's the difference between the renovation and new construction.
Okay, all
Right,
right.
right.
That's the difference between the reno and the new construction. Sorry.
I guess the question would be then, what was the White Path estimates? Because that is high compared to what some of these other estimates are that we're looking at.
Yeah.
And if I remember correctly, because a friend of ours and I did some work together, we were looking more that they could be done in the 200 range.
And that's for a new, or is that for a reno?
If you give me a minute.
I'm sorry. But, and that's kind of what we're trying to get the difference is, you know, if it was a new one for 200 square, and how many people did we ask, or is that just kind of the standard price now for anybody that's building a building?
You asking?
Yeah, I
Oh.
was asking that, sorry.
Yeah, so I recently had a conversation with Georgia Public Library's Director of Facilities, and I asked him what the going rate for new construction was, and that's what he told me.
350 to 400. Thank
One
you.
of my friends consulted with someone who was in construction, and what they gave us was 225, so I was off just a little bit, 225 square foot.
Thank you, Ms. Thompson.
You're welcome.
Ms. Holcomb, you had your hand up, you want to come up?
Hi, Debbie Holcomb, live in the Sugar Creek area. I am on the local library board, but I am not here as a library board member. So I am not speaking for anyone on the library board. The White Path building, that purchase has been discussed, ranted about, raved about It should not have happened to start with. It just should not have. And I thought that this was going to be more of a question and answer so that the citizens would know what's going on with that building. I read the report, or my computer read me the report, the Sutton report, which told us a bunch of nothing. Basically, like Donna said, it just outlined a bunch of different engineers that they were suggesting that we hire in order to get more information. All of the inspections and everything should have been done prior to the purchase of that building, before we ever had it on our backs. I know that SPLOST dollars are very specific. And the referendum was for an admin / parking, which means that all you guys can do with that building is make an admin building, or you can tear it down and make us a very expensive parking lot. I don't think that the library really enters into it. I want a library. I want a library so bad I can taste it. I have asked previous administrations to put a library on the SPLOST. Let the taxpayers vote. Do they want a standalone library? If they do, they would vote for a SPLOST that could pay for a standalone library. That's all I'm going to say about the library now. Now it's White Path. White Path was intended to move all of the admin out of this courthouse. The courthouse is only 20 years old. It's about to be paid for. And yet, you guys want to move elections, tax collector, tax assessor, all of these offices that taxpayers have to come to, and move it into that old building. Why? We paid for this one. Why would we want to go over to that one? It doesn't make sense to me. It also doesn't make sense to me that we're going to have to remediate that building of all the toxins and all of the hazardous material. And by the way, we still don't have a soil test, so we still don't know those hidden costs that Donna was talking about. We still don't know how many contaminants previous manufacturing has dumped into the soil over there. So that's another hidden cost we don't know about yet. I tried to research exactly what we could do with this building now that we own it, and it was purchased with SPLOST dollars. We can, one, tear it down and make an expensive parking lot. Number two, we could renovate it, which was what Mr. Helton intended us to do, and move all of our admin over there. I don't even think they want to go. I really don't. Nobody I've talked to wants to go. Now, I have not talked to everybody before you asked me. But the few that I have talked to, they don't want to go. So why are we making them go? We could sell it, put the money back into the SPLOST account. Although, my next question would be, are we going to have to pay for that remediation of all of that before we could even sell it? That's a question I'd like to know. We're kind of stuck. So really right now we're looking to you guys. What can we do? What do we have to do? What does the law tell us we got to do? Because we sure don't want to sink a whole lot more money into that and end up in worse shape than we are right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for me?
No.
Thank
You
you.
did a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Williams?
My name is Marie Woody. I'm from the Fannin County Land Development Office, and this is my comments. This courthouse was built in 2002. As the chairman and the board at that time recognized the need for the citizens to have a new building that was ADA compliant. The old courthouse was overcrowded with employees, and the citizens that were handicapped could not maneuver the steps. If court was in session, the citizens had no inside access. The cost to renovate the old courthouse would not have been cost effective. We're very proud of the courthouse that we have now. And I was told this year it was paid off, so I'm very proud of that too. The courthouse is a central location for all citizens to conduct their business, and it would be counterproductive if the citizens had to drive to 3 different locations 2 times to apply for and receive their building permits. They would have to come here, they would have to come over there to the other building. If they did not have their deed and plat and information, they would have to come back to the courthouse here and go to the clerk's office to get that information, drive back over to that building to apply, and then come back the 3rd time to pick up their building permit, because they're not instantly ready that day they come in and apply. Often the citizens come in and apply for variances or, permits or variances, and we send them upstairs to get the copies of the deeds. If our offices were moved to that building on Industrial Boulevard, it would not only be inconvenient to the citizens, but the employees would at times have to come back to the courthouse for needed records. This is not only time consuming, but it's time wasted. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, I'm Dawn Cochran and I'm with the Fannin County Tax Assessor's Office. I would like to take just a few minutes of your time just to kind of explain some of my concerns with relocating our department out of the current courthouse situation. Our jobs require many of the staff to work closely in most every office, in every office of this courthouse. On a daily basis, many of the taxpayers visit our office to get references to deed books, plat books, and more. They then take those references to the Clerk of Superior Court to obtain a copy of the documents that they were needing. The same goes for those who are applying for building permits, trying to pay their taxes, wanting to register to vote, and much more. Many of these individuals are advanced in age. We can currently help them by walking them to these other offices or pointing them in the right direction if needed. This would be a great inconvenience if we were located in a different location from the other offices. Same goes for the department sending taxpayers down to us. This burden would not only affect taxpayers, but employees as well trying to perform their daily job responsibilities. Our job requires us to work with probate office to process things like death certificates, affidavits, probated documents, and more. We record conservation applications, we research property issues, and do daily work in person in these different offices. The Board of Equalization hearings are a 4 to 6 month process annually that require taxpayers, appraisers, board members, and clerk of court employees to attend numerous ever-changing hearings. It's hard enough to get through this process with all of us being under the same roof. I cannot imagine the total chaos it would be if half of the parties were located in different locations. Title searchers and surveyors must utilize the clerk of court, the tax assessor's office, the tax commissioner, land development, magistrate, and probate for each and every case that they have. This would be a great burden and consume a lot of time running from one location to the other. It's my understanding that Pickens County is set up this way and is said to be very inconvenient on these particular individuals. There would also be a cost of changing addresses on our bulk pre-printed material for relocating these departments. I personally have a great concern for the allotted space for our department and the new blueprints for the relocation at the White House, at the White House building. The number of offices, or our office for our particular department, was greatly reduced during this planning stage. Yes, it was.
Thanks.
There was no bathroom nor a small break area for our particular department, not even to be shared with an adjoining office as we have right now. As it stands, it's just my personal opinion, and having all the offices in one location, that it's more convenient and time effective for the employees and taxpayers alike. None of my opinion goes toward a library or against a library, and y'all have a very hard decision that you've inherited that I'm sorry for.
Thank you, Ms. Cochran. Appreciate that.
Hi, y'all.
Thank you.
Carol Crawford. Public speaking is not my thing. It makes me feel better to say that, so there you go. I'm a trustee, but again, I'm not speaking as one, I'm just speaking as Carol. I'm not a Fannin County native, but I did have the good sense to marry one. Sitting right over there. We have been here 27 years or so. We brought our kids up here. I'm going back to the grant rather than talking so much about the White Path building. When the kids were growing up, I was more involved with the Friends of the Library, and they were always saying to me, you're always running off to a library meeting. And a lot of those meetings were talking about the same thing that we're talking about tonight, which is how the heck do we get more space for the library? So when I was going, one evening I was going off to another meeting, and my oldest kid brought me this, which is a sign that says, "We love Fannin Libraries." I don't know why she made it plural, we've only got one, but anyway. So I have held on to this as a reminder that we need to get this done. And here's the thing. The kid who made this sign today is 36 years old. It's time, y'all. It's time we got this done. And so I hope that we don't let another generation go by with an inadequate library. I hope that we will support this grant and move forward and get this done. Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford.
Thank you. Mr. Sullivan.
I'm Larry Sotheby. I was Post 2 Commissioner here for 8 years, and the last year of my term, Mr. Helton came to me wanting to buy the White Path building. I wouldn't go along with his agenda. The gentleman across the road from where my workshop is, he was a supervisor down there for 30 years. And he told me at that point in time about the asbestos and other chemicals that had been poured out in the back and in the floor this time. I related to Mr. Helton, didn't make a mind to him. The school system turned the building down, as we all know. And Mr. Helton told me that if I didn't go along with his agenda, he would find somebody that would. So after the election, he did. And that's Mr. Patterson right here. And so that is a pig in the poke, it's like the papers always put it. And I think that the best bet would be to cut your losses and either sell it, Jamie, or either make a parking lot out of it. I mean, I know you went through this, and it's bad that this is laid in your lap, but Mr. Helton, we know what he was. And Mr. Brown down there was there for 30 years, and he can add more light to this situation. In the library situation, they need a standalone library. I agree with them, but they need a piece of real estate to put it on. And the way that's tied up down there, that'll never happen down there, not this anytime soon. But anyway, I think my opinion, personal opinion, would be to cut your losses on that place and get rid of it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr. Sullivan.
Someone else? Yes, sir.
I am the husband of the woman that just spoke. I had good enough sense to marry a Texan. And but I'm Lynn Crawford. I'm a native Fannin Countyan, and I don't like to brag about myself, but I'm probably the only one in this room that was born in the Hicks Clinic in McKaysville. That's my only claim to fame, is being born there. Several years ago, I heard that one of our county commissioners say that he had never, he didn't know anyone that used a library. And so I know there's a lot of people that use the library. They've got statistics of how many people use it, how many use the computers and all that. But I'll just tell you my story. I had, fortunately or unfortunately, 3 daughters. And when they were growing up here, we used the library continuously. They came to children's programs, reading programs. When they got a little older, they started checking out books. They checked out DVDs. They checked out audio books. They used, I don't know if people are familiar with the interlibrary loan system, which is a great thing. My wife is a writer. She was writing an article a couple of years ago about an aspect of her hometown of Dallas, Texas. And she was trying to, in her research, she needed this particular book that was pretty obscure. Anything in Texas is obscure. But, uh-oh, I'm going to be in trouble for that comment. But she went through the interlibrary loan system, and they shipped it, probably from Texas, and she got it, and it was all free. My kids loved also coming up here and just reading magazines. Our budget was tight, so we didn't subscribe to magazines. And so they would come up here, and some of them read, you know, Time, one read Life, several of them, I think, read the magazine 17. And even one of my daughters in college, going to the University of Georgia, she majored in psychology, and she would come up when she was home and come to the library and read Psychology Today. They also used the internet, and so my family benefited greatly from the library. I think their educational progress, it was enhanced by just being able to use the library, and I'm sure parents of today have the same, you know, utilize it the same way. And, you know, to me, one of the best benefits of the library and all the things that my children enjoyed and utilized is it's free. It's completely free. And it'd been nicer if it was bigger, had more resources and services like some of our counties, adjoining counties do. And I have always thought a healthy community, the leaders always invested in things to make the lives of their citizens better, help them be more educated, to help their well-being. And I actually think Fannin County has done a pretty good job over the last 15 or 20 years. And I'm sure the commissioners back then faced opposition to each of these projects. For instance, we had a football field at the high school. It was functional, had a number of issues. I remember sitting on those old seats and the blocks under were deteriorating. They could have fixed that for probably little money, but they invested in a really first-rate football facility. They did the same thing, the old gym, at the high school. Boys and girls played basketball there. The band did concerts there. They had plays there, and it had a lot of issues, but it worked. But the leaders decided to invest in a new fine arts center and a new gymnasium. And so, you know, they, and you know, there's the courthouse, we invested in this, and the new rec center. And you know, on the new gym at the high school, none of my girls played basketball at the high school, but I was all for it because it was good for the county. The rec center, I've never used it, probably will sometime, but I was all for it, even though at that point I wasn't, you know, didn't plan on using it. And so, you know, every segment of the county really needs to be taken, you know, get facilities and resources that help them. And again, the library has a segment of the population that do use it. And so to me, the bottom line is the county has invested millions in these projects. They could have gone the cheap route, but we've got great facilities here. And it's helped the community, it's helped our kids, it's helped older citizens. And it not only is helping right now, but these are investments, they're not expenses. They help every year. Look at all the years that we've taken benefit of these projects and will, you know, for the foreseeable future. And as a conservative small businessman, in my humble opinion, I'm going to use a phrase that was used in one of my high-level MBA courses. To me, this is the greatest no-brainer since sliced bread. Just think, for every $1 that the state invests, we're going to get $1.66. How could you turn that down? I mean, I'm in business. If I get a 20% return on an investment, I'm super happy. You know, here's 166% return. So I appeal to you, your commissioners, to be wise and to be forward-thinking. Time is of the essence because this offer has been on the table for some time and we don't want to lose it again. So please move quickly and please act now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Nick Wimberly. I am a long-term, lifetime resident of Fannin County. And prefer not being here tonight, not getting up to speak, but I will, because I have something at heart in this. I've listened to things that have been said. Up front, let me tell you, I'm pro-library. I think we need a library. As a matter of fact, the things that have been said about the nice things in our county over the past several years, the library is the next logical step to continue that kind of tradition. We're happy with what we've had before. It's been good. Our county is better because of it. And a good library will just be the next logical step to continue that trend. And you gentlemen have that opportunity to make that happen. There's things been said about convenience of use. And as I sit there, I thought of the days I've been in the library when I saw a very crowded children's group being instructed, enjoying, being educated, if you will, but also intermingling with others, and realized that they were crowded. That was and not only were they crowded, but anyone else in the library was disturbed by their actions. And it would be very convenient for them if we had a nicer place for them. I've watched people use a computer at the library, and there's noise and there's movement, things around them. It would be nice if the computer room was secure by itself so that they could do their work, whether it be homework, and it often is, whether it be business, and it often is, whether it be people doing record checking, and it often is. Genealogy lab. I very much like the history of this county, and this very small space we have here is actually just nowhere near adequate for what we need. And there are a lot of people that would find a nice, secure, quiet genealogy lab a good place to not only learn about the history of this county, but also to add to it. There are, I know in my home, I have books that I would give to that genealogy lab, except they have no place to keep them. And these are history things that we don't need to lose. So, you know, I understand that we have a building, and it's not the building we particularly want. I also think I understand that the county is, excuse me, the state is not offering money for a standalone library. They're offering money for a renovation of a building for a library. And so if I'm correct, Keith?
That's what the application was written.
Okay, so to talk about a standalone library, which is ideal. If you ask me what I would prefer, that's what I prefer. If you ask me, do I think it's in the future, I have to just remember what's already been said from 20, 30 years ago. I doubt that it's in the near future. And by what's already been said, I doubt that the funds would come as freely as these funds are coming. So there's an old expression that says, follow the money. The money is there. Fannin County has an opportunity. There are situations there are inconveniences for people. I could mention to some folks how many times I have come to use the courthouse and didn't because there was no parking within any kind of distance. If Blue Ridge continues to grow, that will get much worse. So personally, I see a time when an administrative building is apart from the courthouse is not only going to be convenient, it's going to be necessary. So as you all have the opportunity and the responsibility of thinking ahead, I would suggest that you look at those kinds of things, realize that yes, there are problems, but there's also opportunity. And for right now, there's $1.3 million for the taking, for the use of the citizens of the county, and it's, if not the only time, it's the only time in a long time. So please look carefully at that, and let's think about, as we continue to grow as a county, this is that chance to make another step forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
My name is Heath Lee. I'm the director of the Regional Library System. So you've heard several people come up to the podium and speak about the prospects of a new library. And I would like for you to hear from one other resident. And when this lady wrote this letter, it was not for the intention of it to be read in a town hall. Not in any way. I keep this letter in my desk. Also have a folder in my desk that's about this thick. That the contents are solely about the journey for the Fannin County Library from the time that the other building was demolished until now. And sometimes when I look at that folder, I get a little frustrated. And sometimes I get a little down because I see what this community and this county has gone through to try to reclaim a space, an independent space for the library system. But sometimes I'll take this letter out and I'll just kind of give it a read over just to kind of remind myself why we do this. So this letter was not addressed to me. It was addressed to the current Fannin County, the Fannin County branch manager back in 2019. And I'm going to withhold the person's name in case someone would know her. So, dear Mrs. B, several months ago, I wrote to Gordon Riddock and told him that I have a few $1,000s in certificates of deposit that I would like to give to the Fannin County Library. If I do not get unable to care for myself and have to use the money for care in a nursing home, I have made the certificates payable on death to the library. If there is any money left when I die, my executor will deliver it to you. What happened to the plan to build a library building? Sincerely, okay. So, again, you have heard from many people tonight when they're expressing their desires for a new library, and there are people in your community who are willing to give their last few dollars to see it happen.
Thank you, Mr. Lee.
Bob Hopkins, Fannin County. I think a for sale sign should have been put on that building way back when they said it was worth so much more than we paid. especially when Blue Ridge was very liberal in their variances. But they're, in light of what we've heard from a lot of people, I don't know if they'll continue to do that. But more importantly, Mr. Hensley, no one has said it, I appreciate your patience. I came in here today thinking this was going to be about White Path, and it's turned to be about a lot more things. But I do appreciate you. I don't think we've ever had you before. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Williams.
Hello. My name is Kirk Williams, Fannin County. Like the gentleman that just spoke, I came here for the White Bath building. It's a disaster. We know it's a disaster. There's only one person here on the board who voted for it. You guys, it's thrown in your lap. It's a disaster and it needs to go away. After that, and we all know that, we need a library also. We need a library desperately. A library is the life of our town. It is. I mean, I growing up spent a bunch of time, you wouldn't know the way I speak, but I spent a lot of time in the library as a youngster in high school and so forth. We had a wonderful library. It is the heart and breath of your town. But what I don't understand is Gilmer County's animal control just was donated $1 million just for their animal control. Where is the effort to make donations for a library for us? I have not ever heard that brought up. I mean, that is a way that we could approach it. I mean, I realize that there's a big shortfall, but we need a standalone library. The White Path building is a disaster, always has been a disaster, and always will be a disaster, no matter whether we know how much money it costs for a new library or not. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Mr. Bond.
My name's James Bond, and I am.
Oh, it's the mic, James.
My name's James Bond. Is that better?
Yeah.
And I'm a resident of Fannin County. I got one question, sir, that I'd like to ask you. Did I understand you correctly when the present grant is just granted if you remodel a standalone building? It's got nothing to do with the structure of a new building?
So the application that was used for the project was written on the idea that there would be a location and it would be renovated.
Your experience, if you changed that, would they honor it, or is it just up in there in the decision?
So those decisions would come from GSFIC, which is the Georgia State Finance and Interest Commission. They're located in Atlanta, so those decisions would ultimately come from someone located in that office.
So what I'm thinking is the grant for renovating a standalone building that exists now, and if it's not, is it gonna pay for a brand new construction where you just have the lot? Those are two different things completely. And, you know, I've seen a lot of changes in Fannin County since I've been here. I came here in '98. One, it was none of you, it was not you, Mr. Patterson. By the way, you asked some questions a while ago, and it got to the point, it got a little heated. Right. And my thought on that is, I have sat back here and read so many times because this group up here stood still and didn't, just three blind mice. So if it doesn't go well, then we have conversation, because if you don't ask us what we think, or tell us what you think, well, I've left you many times thinking, do I know anything more than when I first came in the door? The answer would be no. We do have a parking deck going up right over here, don't we? And the whole reason that parking deck was sold was that we're gonna park all of these people that work here in that parking deck to come to their offices here. Is that not correct? Okay. So we've got a parking deck for here. Why do we need another parking deck? Am I missing something? What am I missing, Mr. Patterson? Don't need one, okay. So, in your opinion, the need doesn't exist right now.
Well, they may be charging for that over there, so there is probably somewhat of a need. They may be charging, I don't know how much they're gonna charge for parking. Maybe $5, you know what they usually do. That's not ours, in other words.
Yeah,
That's
it's a lease.
Right, correct.
Okay. So I'm finding a need. In other words, you have to establish a need, and then you establish how we're gonna pay for it.
Right.
If you ain't got a need, then you don't have to worry about the money. When I was a commercial electrician in the Atlanta area, I was foreman over a project, Clark Atlanta University. Now, it was an old building, and this had been too long ago. But for us to even start doing electrical, they renovated that whole they gutted that building all out because it was asbestos full. So it can be done. You just have to decide, do we move on with money we got? The facade looks pretty good, you get complaints about what the outside of the building looks like. It seems to all zero in on water, chemicals in the interior. So it's like those renovation shows where you go to Texas. They buy $1,000 house. Of course, this was a lot more than $1,000, but they buy $1,000 house, gut the whole interior of it, put all new up inside, and make money. Of course, the library's not making money. I've seen, I didn't go to libraries when I was young. I didn't study enough when I was young. I played football, sports. We got the sports complex out there. It doesn't surprise me it comes from the library board. Seems like more people's interested in what the youth is going to do besides school. And, it would be a great thing to have. Fannin County is a county that's growing. Our tax base, our population is about the same as Gilman County. I remember I was up here one time and I was talking about spending money. My old buddy, Mr. Johnson, said, we ain't about what's going on in Gilman County, it's all about what's going on here. So he made it clear we ain't interested in spending tax dollars. But it always comes up to you, it always catches up. That's all I got. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, again, I'm John Turner. I have the agreement between the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia and the Mountain Regional Library System, which will answer the question, I believe, that was just posed. So if I may read from the agreement. It says, whereas the 2021 Georgia General Assembly appropriated to the Library Board of Regents $1.385 million in bond funds to assist the library, and here's the important language, with the construction and equipping of a renovated library facility for Fannin County. And it repeats that language over and over again. A renovated library facility. So I think that answers that question.
Mr. Turner, can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Could we change directions in that? Could we change directions and go to a standalone library if we so desired? Would that be possible?
I'm not able to answer that question. The only one I know who would be able to answer that would be our state librarian, Miss Julie Walker.
Would he be able?
I don't think we could do anything other than go to the top to ask a question of that, like that. Heath is correct that the application was for a renovation.
Would it take considerable time to change directions?
Again, that's a question I'm not able to answer. What I can tell you is that this document that we received back in September of 2020, following the appropriation, the mechanism was created for the bonds and so forth through the our Finance Commission. But it has language in it that says that the library would need a construction and renovation, says construction and renovation budget and operational budget for the facility on or before March 31st, 2021. So we've already passed one deadline. And as you know, we've asked for extensions, we've asked for a little extra time, and it was granted to us because we have a new administration that came in that needed time to study this. The state did not give us a new deadline, and I think that was on purpose. So we would need to explore that. It's a great question. I think we would have to go straight to the top to get the answers for that. Heath and I.
Glenn, I would say without a definitive location that is owned, free and clear, it would not be seriously entertained. But that's just my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Because without a dedicated location, there is nothing to apply a grant towards.
It's true.
So if I may, just take a few minutes here. So we're going to Plan G. All right, I think we went through A through F and now we're on Plan G. All right, so maybe this might help answer a question here. So, all right, before I got elected, trying to hear the concerns, met with some of the library board, met with some other citizens here in the county. And I'll just say it's my opinion, all right? And that's all it is, it's my opinion. I didn't think it was a good idea to get that building either. I really didn't. Yeah, it looked good on paper, but at the same time, I was crunching numbers, trying to figure out how this could work. So January the 4th, as I was beating my head against the wall in that office trying to figure out how to answer the phone, I was trying to put some numbers together, and I cleared my mind and said, how can we make this work? So I went, you know, okay, all right, if we do this and we do this and we do this and that and so forth and the other. After about 2 weeks, I just really couldn't find a way in my mind that would benefit us going out there. I really couldn't. So I started looking for options because I do feel that there were not many options given regardless, even to the citizens of Fannin County. There was not many options. So I did start looking for options. And I've been talking on a couple of parcels of land, and I have, trying to negotiate some prices. And obviously, if we'll just put it out there, everything would be contingent upon us selling this building out here. But, and there's a minimum price I have in my head that I feel that we can get with no problems. But it would have a piece of property for the library, for a standalone library, and it would. It would be your own home, okay? With your grant, and again, I think last week I probably got cussed more for saying I'm just going to abandon the library And I got talked pretty hard to. I don't think my mom talked that hard to me at the time. But when it was all, yeah, but when it was all said and done, no, I'm trying to find solutions that's going to try to help us all out, okay? So the extra fund, so let's just say you had a parcel of land that was 2 acres. Let's say it was 2 acres. You had a parcel of land and we're looking, we'll round up just a little bit and say 2 million, okay? Where would the additional funding come in the event that this come to fruition? Do we have, and I know somebody mentioned Friends of the Library, I believe is what the fundraising group is that correct? Okay, so is that a possibility to say, okay, we now have $2 million in the kitty, we have a spot of land, we need 3.5 million, so now we need to get out and work to raise that additional money. And I'm throwing numbers out there because I don't know. I'll just be honest with you, I don't know the cost. So that's kind of maybe a question that I would have is, yep, you got a piece of land, and the spot that I'm really trying to get, it's in the city of Blue Ridge, but it's off the beaten path. It's not down at the foot of the hill with the, with a school. But it is easily accessible. All right, it's easily accessible for everyone. And you would have room, even if you started with, and again, if you started with 10,000 square feet, you would have room to build on. And 10,000 square feet, according to your numbers, Mr. Turner, that's 3,500 more square feet than what we have right now. That's a start. When we started building this courthouse, and just quite frank with you, I've never been in politics, so I didn't really care. I paid the taxes, and that's all I knew to do. But we had to start somewhere, right? So we did. And that would be my suggestion. If we can make this happen, there's another piece of property that I'm also looking at that will help the county employees out in parking. And it is very close to this facility right here. So in the amount that I have in my mind, we would be able to purchase the property for the library. We would be able to purchase a piece of property for additional parking for county employees. And we would also have enough money to renovate our admin building, which is right here. And we are fortunate enough that we all live under the same roof, or at least in the same complex, and we are. Will this be suitable for us 15 years down the road? I don't think so. But at the same time, in 15 years, that gives us time to actually go out and try to find, and I think Mr. Johnson even said there was 14 acres that he was looking at. That gives us an opportunity to go find that property to be able to build for the next generation. So we talk about, going with the flow, or going with the growth. Our courthouse next door took care of us for how many years? We outgrew it. We come here, we still have plenty of room here, and we do. If we take our admin and move it out to that facility, what are we going to do with all the wasted space? And that's exactly what I said. If a library took the bottom floor, here's another thing that I look at. Crunch some numbers on what it takes for us to live in this facility. And I say live, you would be surprised how much it takes to live here month to month. And if I say that number, you'd be like, holy cow, we need to start turning off the lights. So, excuse me. But if we done half of what it costs to live here, out there, that's going to add so much more money to the taxes, and that's a recurring cost each month. Not to mention, now we have to put furniture, we have to hire additional staff. If there is security needed out there or whatever, we have to, and everything is going to be doubled right here. So, and I've talked to these other commissioners because I'm not sure as how much they know of this, and I've just learned it myself. But this facility is 20 years old, and a lot of this equipment is the same age. And so there's a lot of stuff that we need to do under our own roof right here before we look into actually doing something else as far as an admin building goes. That's how I feel about it. So, my thing is and again, I'm waiting on one phone call to have this whole thing taken care of. But if Plan G come to fruition, that would take care of possibly your needs, that would take care of our parking needs as far as employee parking, and the county would still be out of debt. And we would be able to work on our facility to get us caught up to the age that has passed us. And I know this has been about White Path and library and things like that, but I even look a little bit farther and say, yeah, everything has outgrown us. There's no doubt about it. Our public safety, our public works, you know, there's so many departments, and we have 2 commissioners back there that can attest to this. There's so many departments that depend on us. And even though on paper it's a $30 million budget, it takes $30 million and $100 to make it run. So you're always trying to find that $100 at the end of the day. So my hope is that the other commissioners kind of hear this plan, because I think it's the first time they may have been hearing this, and I apologize for not getting maybe a little more word to you, but I would hope that people would be up for possibly this. And it's an idea that's thrown out there. If anybody can put something else on there, I mean, that's why we have these meetings. This was just an idea that I had. We still have enough to renovate and do what we need. So, anybody else? Yep. Yes, sir.
My name is Marty Kahn. I live in Mineral Bluff. And you have the Plan G. How about a Plan H?
Let's hear it.
Well, okay.
Let's hear it.
Can you build on top of this? Has this been designed to go up more?
Honestly, don't think so.
It would be one way to research something else. And if you're looking to save money, get rid of all of these fluorescents. We got LEDs now. Research that out. The investment in that would pay for itself very quickly. Another thing I thought about, if you're looking, what about the land out by the lake? The 3 little houses are by the dam. Who owns the land? Is that still by TVA?
TVA.
Yeah, I was saying if that would have been a beautiful spot.
Would
You know, you could do that. Or even in some shopping center. If some building goes out, you could add on to that. Totally renovate it, just strip it out, strip it right down to the, to this bare skeleton and redo it. So there's ideas now. I know a lot of counties where shopping centers, even in Cobb County and stuff, where they've, shopping centers have shut down, there's so many of them. They're now total county facilities with all the offices. I don't know if there's anything around here I haven't seen.
Not that I'm aware of, it's empty. Maybe the old food city, I think that's the only building that's empty.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, or buy a piece of land, move a house to it, renovate and add on to it.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Mr. Collins.
Appreciate it.
Let me see.
I'm Jenny, and I live here in the county, and I think this White Path building was a fiasco from day one. I requested the contract for the agreement to purchase it. It didn't exist. It's very poor fiscal management for taxpayer dollars that our money is not protected more than that, Mr. Patterson, when you and Mr. Helton and Mr. Johnson purchased it, but that's just my opinion. You're talking about money. I think we need a freestanding library too. I'm more than just the animals, believe it or not. And I'm a big proponent about this library. The county took the library that our county had and tore it down. Francis Buck put a lot of effort into getting that building years ago. And, you know, it was demolished by the county. The county owes us a building, honestly, you want to get into that. Where can we get the money? First of all, I would think, what about the Board of Education? They get a lot of eSPLOST money. And I know that it hasn't been that many years ago that they decided not to contribute to our local library. I think maybe we need to revisit that. They get a lot of eSPLOST money that could be beneficial for the funding for this library. And a second one is, of course, I'm going to step up on my soapbox, and Mr. Hensley, you know where I'm going, is the Chamber of Commerce. We're giving them more than the state mandated. And last year, because of that, we gave them 50% of the lodging tax money that came in, when only the state last year was only mandating 40%, which equated to over $300,000 as a gift to the chamber above and beyond what the state mandated. And it doesn't take long each year when you're, and this year it'll even be more than that because it's a 6% sales tax this year, even though I know the percentage goes up a little bit, 42% I think is what the state mandate is that has to go to the DMO. But let's look at that money. Let's hold that money and let our local citizens benefit, and let's not give that extra to the chamber. And it can be used, I understand, for tourism, but our whole community lives off tourism. So I can't believe that you couldn't slide it into almost any department, and I think the library certainly could be considered as something that would be on that tourism end as well. But that would be two sources, and that $300,000 plus is sitting there already. That's our money. And let's hold it and come back into our county and get the fire station, you know, staffed and funded, and let's work on this library. There are a lot of ways. So, and I do appreciate the work you've done on trying to get this thing figured out. And I really, really do, because this is the first time in a long time I've seen you're really working for the county, and it is being noticed, and I do appreciate it, instead of having it ramrodded like the building when it was purchased, Mr. Patterson. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Patterson?
Well, it's been a long evening, and first I'd like to just thank everybody for their comments, pros or cons or whatever it might be. Appreciate you being here on this rough, rainy evening, whether you spoke or whether you just came out. It's good for y'all to have concerns. Mr. Jamie had said we're here to listen. And I've tried to listen, and I've heard a lot both ways. I'd like to give Mr. Hensley a little credit too about, I think he could have said something, but he didn't. Back here in the back, Mr. Williams, we've got a place that Mr. Hensley has talked about at the animal control. I know you slid that in, but there is a place for donations now, thanks to Mr. Hensley. So you need to be looking at that if you so choose, okay? All right, back to the library now. I am not pro White Path. I have heard, and I appreciate again, the concerns from courthouse officials that said it, you know, would cause the cohesiveness will not be there if we break it up. And I've asked questions whether we're going to outgrow it, how soon, those type things. So, in looking at it, I am pro-library, okay? I want a library. I feel like all these other things that would benefit from a library. I really don't care where, just so it's a good library. If it's a standalone, that's great. But we don't need to lose this opportunity, and that's been said already a couple of times. But I think it's important for you to understand where I'm coming from in my position there. I will be open to change of direction. If if that's feasible, financially feasible. And again, I echo some thoughts you just said, Ms. Renz. I appreciate your work on that. There's a lot of ifs and buts in doing that. If we can get if we can sell White Path, if we can get another place for the library, if we can get some more parking, I think Mr. Bond talked about here, because it's going to get tight unless a lot of people go to the other parking lot, which they could. But that's kind of a wait and see type thing. But I want a library. I think a library will be important for all the reasons it's already said. I'm not going to reiterate it. Libraries, I first think of is reading. That's literacy. That gives people hope. I grew up in humble beginnings. We didn't have a whole lot. There's still a lot of people in Fannin County low income, and I represent them as well. I think over here somebody said from the library, used the word free. You can go there, even if you're just worn out at the house and you want to get somewhere where you just can have some peace and quiet. If you need a job, you don't have a computer, you can go there and get on a computer and hopefully find a job. A lot of these things, kids, old people, all these things. And I look at the librarian, we've got one right here, as a teacher, okay? And that's where the hope comes in, okay? We got to think about those people. I worked in the school system. Every one of our schools free introduced lunches. I've seen it firsthand. So I represent those folks too. I'm not pro White Path. I see there's a little concern. And I'm looking, if we can, in another direction, if that would be more financially feasible. Okay? That's about all I've got. And remember, you know, this library will be here for a while. You may not have grandkids. I do. I'm fortunate, blessed. Could be your grandkids. You know, you may not have anybody that uses the library, but down the road, when you and I are dead and gone, you may have a great-grandchild or somebody that learned something from the library. It'll always be there. That's all I've got, Mr. Henson.
Thank you. Commissioner Searson?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Peterson, thank you. Thank everybody for being there tonight. I'm sorry I couldn't be there, but due to my suit, we have to stay here and do the movie. But I am not in favor of spending millions of dollars on a 85-year building. I'm still trying to find the first dollar I ever made. I know I haven't somewhere. But one thing I am for the library. I've always, that was the only place I could afford to go when I grew up to get a book. And I know that there's people that's not as fortunate as others, and it does mean a lot to them. I could care, and I'm with due respect, I'm happy for Union County and what they have. But, you know, we're gonna take care, and we're gonna do, we've got us a list, you know what I'm talking about. We want to do things right here for Fannin County. And we're gonna do that, and we're gonna help the library, and we're going to spend our money very, very wisely because it belongs to the taxpayers. And I'm a taxpayer like everybody else. So saying that, I want everybody to rest assured that this board is going to work hard for Fannin County. I promise you that we're going to do and that they're going to be hard, but you know, with God's help, we're going to make the right decisions for everybody. So once again, thank you. I hope to be back today. I'd like to be there. I just want everybody to rest assured that we're going to work hard for you, and because we love Fannin County as much as you do, and this is our home too. This is going to be a total different board than what you've seen before in the past, and generations are not going to slip out of our hands. We are going to build something for our kids, our grandkids. So thank you again. God bless you. Be safe going home tonight. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for the time to speak.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Guess we'll end this. We have to make a motion to, okay. I'll, ask for a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Go ahead.
I make a motion
I'll
to second the motion or whatever we need to do.
We'll second Mr. Sosa's motion. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thank you.